today's topics, right, I will just cover this company called DeepMind. It is a subsidiary of Google. The reason why I want to share about this company is also because I read a book. Later I'll show you which book that I'm reading that talk about the history of DeepMind. Basically, that book is talking about like two companies, two startups. One is OpenAI, the other one is DeepMind. Both are very strong in AI. We all know that now OpenAI, they're still independent, but they have deep partnership with Microsoft. On the other end, DeepMind already fully acquired by Google, and now I think they are, even the Google brain also already merged with DeepMind, and they are the so-called like the brain that power all the AI that Google is doing at the moment. So we'll get into some of those details. Let's go into the content. I believe most of you have heard of this AlphaGo versus Lee Sedol about the games, right? The Go. I think before they have this match, right, quite a number of all the games, for example, like chess, right, is already kind of like soft, right? Meaning that computers are so good at playing, they are better than human. But when it comes to Go, because it is so complicated, the board is a lot bigger, and then in terms of for computers to do computations also, it will take up a lot of computations. So before these competitions, this match between AlphaGo and Lee Sedol, right, people actually doubt that whether AI or software is able to beat a human, because these games require a lot of intuition. But then after that, they took some time to come up with their algorithms and using all the neural network and stuff, and then they actually beat Lee Sedol. So this is already 2016, so almost like 9 years, more than 9 years ago, already quite some time. I think there's a great documentary that talk about this match. Yeah, so I think this is just to let you know that this is the time point where people actually believe that software or AI, right, they can do almost everything, because such a complicated games also they can master and be better than humans, right? What else they can't master? So I think that's the story about AlphaGo. And just to let you know why I want to mention AlphaGo is because this AlphaGo, right, is invented by Google DeepMind. Okay, so this was 2016. I think recent years, right, we have heard about story about DeepMinds. They come up with this AlphaFold. So just to read up some of the comments here, right, in 2020 they make significant advance in protein folding with AlphaFold. So I think this one quite complicated. I also not expert in this area, don't know how best to communicate. I think you can think of it as like protein, right? It's just a chain of all the amino acid, right? And the sequence of amino acids and how they fold, right, will determine the functions of the proteins. So I think basically if you know the sequence is almost like the software, right? The software that we all use is called the 1010, those binary. It's all about the sequence, right? So the sequence will determine everything else. So now it's just the sequence of acid amino that will determine the proteins. And AlphaFold, they are able to come up with these algorithms, this software to predict the functions of the proteins based on the sequence. And then in 2022, they announced that over 200 million predicted protein structures representing virtually all known proteins, and they will be released on the AlphaFold database. So I think this is quite a big thing, because before this, right, I think the so-called like the known structures, right, I think it's not even in 1 million numbers. But now using software, they're able to predict the structures of 200 million different proteins. But bear in mind that this is just the predictions, right? It is not 100% known that these are all true. So they still have to, they release all this in the form of database, and then other people, they can actually do experiments to confirm whether these predictions is true or not. So, but still, I think this is, when it comes to the accuracy, right, it's really quite accurate. And then AlphaFold 3 was only released last year. So this for AlphaFold 3, I think it is not just about the structure of one protein, but how protein interact with each other. They are able to predict that as well. So you can see that within short period of time, right, from 2020 to 2022 to 2024, within 1 or 2 years, right, they keep on coming up with all sorts of all this advancement in protein structures, right? So I think this is an area where there's a lot of opportunity, and be it drug discovery and stuff, right? So it is quite an important area where all the pharmaceuticals, instead of like have to 100% relying on experiments, right? Right now, they really treat this as almost like a software development. So I think this is quite an advancement. And of course, AlphaFold was invented by Google DeepMind. Those are the two areas. I mean, games is one thing, right? The other one is the protein folding, right? These are the area that it shows that I think Google DeepMind is leading. And just want to briefly touch on about this company. This company was founded by 3 persons: Demis Hassabis, Mustafa Sulaiman, and Shane Lack. It is a company that's set up in London, in UK. So they are quite far away from US Silicon Valley. This is 3 of them them. And I will briefly touch on about the founders, Demis Hassabis. Demis Hassabis is actually not a stranger to Singapore because his mother, right, Angela Hassabis, she was Singaporean, but she migrated to UK when she was quite young, and she met Demis' father, Kostas Hassabis, who is a Greek Cypriot, two different nationals, but met up in UK and then married. And I think they have 3 children. And Demis Hassabis is the famous one, the guy that we want to talk about. And he mentioned that when he was young, right, he visited Singapore quite often, and he just visited his cousins. So he has cousins, he has relatives in Singapore, so it's not stranger to us here. He came to Singapore quite often. I think even this article by Straits Times, he was here in Singapore. Then just some more background about him. So he's a child prodigy in chess from the age of 4. So Hassabis reached master standard at the age of 13 with an ELO rating of 2,300 and captained many of the England junior chess teams. So he was very good. Like I searched, right, this ELO rating of 2,300. I'm not a chess player myself. I don't know how to play at all. But 2,300 apparently is quite high because, say for example, some celebrity, right, the lady, I forgot what's her name already. She's quite good, right? But she's not like 2,300 level. Maybe it's like closer to 2,100 level. So 2,300 is really, really good. Maybe not like the top 10 in the world kind of good, but it's very, very good. So I think he's good at games, right? I think this is also something that inspired him to do well in AI, because all the things about like all this chess, right, you have to rely on your own intelligence to beat your opponents, right? So then he was thinking about like how can he create a software or create an intelligence that can help us to just tap on that intelligence instead of everything rely on our brain. So basically it's the outsource intelligence works to software instead of like everything rely on human. That was something that inspired him. Then at the age of 16, I think he got the offer from Cambridge. Basically he secured his university placement at the age of 16, but then he was told to wait for 1 year so that he entered university at age of 17 because he was too young at 16. So he took that 1 year, right, to go and join this company called Bullfrog Productions. This company actually create games, and during his time there, right, because I think the founders wanted to create something like theme park simulation game, and this game back then was not proven. So other designers don't want to work on this game, and Hassabis, he was interested, and then he worked with the founder directly, report to him, and then become the designer of the games. And this game, right, eventually become a hit. I myself not a fan of this kind of games, but my wife, right, she played a game called Roller Coaster Tycoon when she was young. She mentioned to me. Then I think that game, right, the Roller Coaster Tycoon is quite similar to these theme park games, where basically you are the one that build the theme park, and then you have to build the roller coaster, and then you need to manage the business. Even let's say some people throwing up, right, you have to ask the cleaner and go and clean. So it's a simulation games, which makes it quite interesting. And this game is a hit, and he's the designer. So just to let you know that since young, right, he's already quite capable and is fascinated with all the games and all the intelligent stuff. This was just age 17. Then after that, he go back to university and pursue his studies. Okay, so talking about DeepMind. Yeah, I think the company was founded in 2012, 2 years after DeepMind was founded, right? He met Elon Musk at exclusive conference in California organized by Peter Thiel. So the two guys connected, and then even Hassabis visited Elon Musk at his SpaceX headquarters. And then following their meetings, right, Elon invested in DeepMind. But I think the amount is not like a big amount. If not mistaken, it's like a 5 million investment. But you know, these are the investment when the company hasn't really got the things, right? It's just gathering the scientists, and they say they want to do research. And then I don't think there's any product, but it's more like a startup investing where you invest in the person rather than the company or product or services. So Elon invested, so he has connections early in their founding time. And then quite interestingly, around early 2010s, right, actually Mark Zuckerberg, right, he offered 800 millions to acquire DeepMind. So I think this was right after they invested they not just invested, they actually bought Instagram for $1 billion, right, and then prepared to buy WhatsApp for $19 billion. So because Mark Zuckerberg, he saw the potential in AI to improve Facebook ads targeting, right? So he's very interested with DeepMind, and he can see, right, DeepMind actually they have quite a number of those very capable scientists that is doing all the research for them. So they have the capability. It's just that where to apply that strength and knowledge and capability is something that people different people have different ideas. So Mark Zuckerberg was very interested. He wanted to buy, and arguably this $800 million is a huge sum of amount. And even Hassabis also, he definitely agreed that 800 million is like a correct amount. But what they are concerned with is that how would this technology be used? Because they say they wanted to use general artificial intelligence, right? AGI, right? Artificial general intelligence, AGI. They wanted to use AGI for the public good instead of like just to benefit certain organization at, like, for example, ads, improving ads, right? This is not something they wanted to do. And they also scared that this AGI things, right, is too powerful, and if someone own it, right, then they can't control it. So they wanted to set up a board, right, a safety board that control the AGI once the AGI is developed. So Mark Zuckerberg is not happy with that. So they say, what the heck is this? Like, if I bought these companies, let's say if you really invented AGI, he wanted to own the AGI, right? Instead of like just say, oh, then suddenly they can't do this because there's a safety board and they don't fully own it essentially, right? So Mark Zuckerberg say, no, he rejected the conditions. So gone, the 800 millions. Then comes 2014. The next one coming is Google. Google acquired DeepMind for 650 millions. The amount is lesser. The interesting part is that Google, they actually agree on this safety board things, because they know that if they doesn't agree, then DeepMind is not going to sell themselves, right? The end story here is that there's some sort of agreement to have the safety board to oversee any future AGI developed by DeepMind. And these acquisitions, when it was conducted, right, it was done by Larry Page. So this is back in 2014 already. That was 11 years ago. Then after this acquisition, I think the interesting part is that they have all the fundings, they have all the monies, and then they can hire even better talents, right? Because if they don't have this kind of fundings, right, you know, all these big tech companies, they have tons of money, they are willing to spend, they will build out their own AI capability. They are pushing the stuff from DeepMind anyway, right? They don't have a choice. They really need to sell. They need the money in order just to keep the talent. So that was the situations back then. And I think in the end, right, this safety board, I'm not sure whether it is already set up. I don't think it has been set up because there's a lot of talk about like restructuring the whole Google. Like, for example, they have this Alphabet, which is holding companies, and then Google is under Alphabet, and all the other subsidiaries, right? For example, like Waymo, they are all independent operating entities within Alphabet's group, and they have their own P&L. So Google cannot, they cannot leverage on, they cannot use DeepMind as if it is their companies. So they are more like operating independently, right? So that was the story that is being promised to Hassabis. But I think in the end, it didn't play out because, you know, when this company is 100% owned by Google, I think Google is the one that called the shots. So there's a lot of story behind it, but I won't go into a lot of those details. Okay, so business implications. Just want to briefly touch on this because I think the most interesting part is actually the AlphaFold. Because if you talk about all these chatbot, right? I think when talking about chatbot, even if you compare OpenAI, ChatGPT versus, let's say, like Google Gemini, right? Or even Grok 3, right? I think they are all quite similar. Like, for example, let's say I use ChatGPT most of the time. Let's say if I'm forced to use Grok, I think I'm okay. In terms of capability, they are quite close. But when it comes to all these protein folding things, right? I think this is the part where Google's or Google DeepMind, right? They, at least it feels to me that they are leading. And I think that this is an area where there's tons of opportunity for them to capitalize and then to actually make this become a big business. So I actually use ChatGPT just to help me brainstorm what kind of business model they can come up with. And here are a list of them, right? I will briefly go through each of them. You can pause at any time to read out the text if you want. I won't read all of them. So the first one is actually the cloud-based AlphaFold as a service, because you can think of it, right? This AlphaFold is just a model, just like Google Gemini or ChatGPT, right? If you have the model, and if let's say this model can only run on Google Cloud, right? So anyone that wanted to use this model, they can actually use it in the form of API, and this API, right, will actually run on Google Clouds, right? So just this capability itself, right, is able to make people attract people into Google Cloud ecosystems. So the cloud service, I won't say that it is like a separate cloud business. It's more like complement their current Google Cloud business. This is the first one. Then second one is licensing to to biopharma and CROs. I think this is more to do on pharmaceutical drug inventions. You see the example given here is identifying new drug targets, understanding disease mechanism, engineering therapeutic proteins or antibodies. There's a lot of things that they can do. The third one is strategic partnership and co-development. So the second one just now, this is just licensing the model, right? The third one, this is like really Google, they themselves get into all these, for example, like co-development in drug discovery, and they can actually capture more in the form of royalties for any successful therapeutic outcomes. So this is also quite interesting. And then the fourth one is data mode plus pre-training infrastructure monetizations. Google strengthens its data mode proprietary improvements on protein molecule interactions. It can commercialize pre-training infrastructure on TPUs or Vertex AI, enabling clients to train similar models. I think all these things, I also don't know the full details, but just to let you know that once you have something like a model that, let's say, arguably is the best, right? All other companies wanted to use it, and then they will really get into the ecosystem, right? And then from there, they can see how, what kind of value that they can provide from there. So, and you all know that all this pharmaceutical business, right? It's like a really big business. So it's like an industry itself, right? So as long as you have a leg inside the industry, right? There's always things that you can do by just leveraging on the software capability that Google has, right? I think this is quite interesting. And then the fifth one is downstream integration into drug discovery workflow. I won't go into more details. I can pause and read if you are interested here. Sixth one, patent and IP monetizations. I think it's quite similar. So this is just a summary of what are the business models that is possible. Some of them is actually already working in a sense. Some of them is like still very early in the process. But I think the important thing is to know that this AlphaFold, right, is really something that has worked. And even when it comes to, I think for those, in case you don't know, right, Hassabis actually just got the Nobel Prize in chemistry. I think it is also related to all this protein structure stuff instead of like just the computer software stuff. Right? So it is like merger between software, algos, model, AI versus drug discovery, chemistry, biology. It's an exciting area because I think it's the first time where they tap into software to solve bio-related problems. So it's quite interesting. Okay, we all know that we can't invest in these companies directly, right? But the good thing is that Google, they own DeepMind 100%. So anything that came out from DeepMind, I think Google is able to monetize it. And let's say if not a direct monetization, at least they can use it to, for example, build on top of their current software or current offerings. I think Google Cloud is the most obvious one. That's why I think we need to understand the subsidiary. So because if we just look at Google and you just look at their core business, right? For example, their core business is definitely the digital advertising, be it YouTube or Google search, right? These are the ones that is still driving their revenue, driving their profits, right? But for companies like Google, they have the capital, they keep on invest in all these startups, and all these startups, they will flow back, right? In terms of the capability and in terms of their services, they will go back to Google and help out with their core business. So I think this is why we can see that for big company, when they have money to invest, right, they will keep on investing. And I think that's the right thing to do, right? Because the moment you stop investing, especially in technology companies, right, other startups, they might actually leapfrog you and suddenly become better than you, right? And they can take market share away from you. So it's quite dangerous one in technology. So they have to keep on investing. But the interesting part about Google is that, I don't know, maybe there's too much, all this narrative talking about ChatGPT is going to disrupt Google search. That's why their valuation is not that expensive. Currently, it's only at about 20x PE. And if you look around, right, there are many tech companies, their PE, or I'm using for PE here, is much higher than 20x. It could be like, 25, 30, 40x PE, right? But here, Google, you can see that their profitability is like all-time high, their revenue is all-time high, and then their PE is at attractive level, and yet they have all these, you can call it like moonshot businesses or startups within the group, right, that can turn out to be a big payoff in the future. That's why I think it's quite promising to own Google. But again, this is not financial advice. I'm just talking about all these companies just for entertainment or for learning purposes. So this is Google valuations. And just now I mentioned that the book that I was reading, I was still halfway through. So the book name is Supremacy, AI, ChatGPT, and the Brace That Will Change the World. I think it's quite interesting because I think to many of us, right, all these AI things is as if they started out since, let's say like 2022 when ChatGPT came out. It's almost like, okay, AI only started in 2022. But actually, if you trace the history, right, let's say if you trace from Google DeepMind, right, it was 2012 they already set up, and they're already using all the neural network and stuff to do things, right? You can actually trace from there. And if you watch NVIDIA GTC, right, they always use AlexNet as the starting point of AI. AI, I think that was also 2012, right? So I think the AI story, if you really want to trace, right, you really need to start from 2012. Of course, people say that all the neural network, quite a number of all these technologies, actually they were here with us for, don't know, maybe 30 or 40 years, right? But you need to remember, let's say if you go beyond, let's say 15 years or longer, right? Those period, even if you have the model, if you have the formula, but you don't have the compute power to do anything, right? It's still useless. But I think the really starting point is 2012. So that was when they started. And this book talk about the history, not just on Google DeepMind, it's also on OpenAI. So I think there's quite a lot of interesting story there as well. So I was halfway through, but anyway, I found that this story about Google DeepMind is quite interesting. So just want to share with you all. One more thing, right? Just for those who didn't pay attention, Tesla just launched their robotaxi. So they promised about June launching, right? Cars driving on the road without driver inside. There's steering wheel, because this is the exact same Tesla car that came out that they sell to customers. I think the difference is only on the software, because the software that's running on this car is not the same as the one that car buyers are using. So there's some difference in terms of the software, but in terms of the hardware, right, it is exactly the same. So I think they just launched. It's not even, you can call it like a pre-launch, because the exact launch date, right, is June 22nd. That was the first public rides. Elon mentioned that June 28, right, the first Tesla that drive itself from factory end of line all the way to customer house. So that was the date. This is going to be a news, right? Because say for example, you imagine you buy a car, right, and then you don't have to pick up the car. The car just drive itself to your house. So I think this kind of experience, right, none of other automakers have created these kind of things. Tesla will be the first one. So I'm quite excited on this June 28. Hopefully no more delay from here. It will be quite an interesting one. Okay, I think that's all about this week's sharing. Hope you all enjoyed these topics. Thank you so much. Bye bye.